Is anyone aware of a topic for today? Because it looks like according to the meeting agenda spreadsheet, there's no topics, and looks like we don't have Brian or Jeff.
Yeah, I thought that topic was attestation architecture, Roxana.
Yes, I was supposed to talk, but I need Brian or Jeff. I know Jeff is on vacation. Brian actually pinged me early in the morning at 7:30 whether I'm ready. I told him I'm ready, but anyway, maybe the timing doesn't work for Brian. I don't know. But definitely we need Brian or Jeff.
Brian committed to attending. That was last week.
Yeah, I think we should give him a minute. I know Brian sometimes runs late.
Sure.
Gitu.
Your mouse works, Brian.
Oh, it does. I was just checking if my speakers were on. Clicking frantically at the speaker button. So let me see. Roxana is presenting today. Is she on?
Yes, I am on, Brian.
All right. I think we're ready to take it away when you are. Chris, you finished up the ownership transfer stuff last week?
Yeah, finished is a strong word, but we covered it for an hour, and there's a bunch of opens that I'm going to try to follow through on this week.
Okay, so you're going to try to follow through as in working offline, or you've got an update?
Yeah.
Okay.
I need to do some offline work to respond to the feedback that was provided, and then I think we'll probably need another discussion in the future.
Okay, epic. I'll help to coordinate that with you. But you don't have anything urgent this week, and we can switch right over to Roxana's topic.
Yes.
All right, cool. Okay, Roxana, it's over to you.
Thank you so much, Brian. Let me just share quickly. Desktop. Hope you guys can see my desktop right now.
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, wonderful. Today I'm here to go over the same material I present before and see whether you guys are okay to open a working stream that all of us to work together towards having a device attestation, a framework that works for every silicon vendors and CSPs and end user. Just to give you guys some background, this is the challenge with the current model, which there are very limited assurance or attestation mechanism for the end user to understand what exact hardware or firmware or the feature or policy or configuration they have in their system. And generally, as of now, the CSPs are the one in the TCPs to give the trust to the customers what the firmware or hardware or feature is enabled in the platform and in the environment end user are using. And the only feature which we do have has attestation is T's, but at the same time, even for T attestations are not digestible for the normal people, and it doesn't reflect the latest status of a platform. It doesn't change that much with the life cycle of the platform. If the migration pool change, is not going to reflect, or if the policy or IO policy of the system change, it's not going to reflect, because generally attestation done once in the when you initiate a T. Any questions or concerns about the challenges of the current model? If not, okay, then if the challenge is clear, the reality is there is no model here as or a framework that, okay, end user or silicon vendors or CSPs would use to help with these issues the end user is facing, to give that assurance to end user what is currently they have in their environment. And that's why I think if we do have a working group in OCP and make an effort to put a framework for this type of attestation, would be perfect. To write a spec, or at the end, I remember actually Brian and Eric pointed out, maybe there's a couple of silicon vendors have a reference reference code, just how this has been done. We work together to have some reference code that, okay, how the firmware attestation or feature attestation could be done based on their platform. That would be a step forward, or the goal of this work stream. Any questions?
I guess really maybe a mechanical question is what are you suggesting here? Are you suggesting defining a list of like claims to be shoved into an EAT token, or are you like some of this feels like it's overlapping with RATs, so I'm not quite sure what you're suggesting here.
Sure. Let me just, anyway, RATs, we are going in back to RATs. That's true. There are going to be some overlaps, and we are going to use whatever building blocks RAT or TCG is supporting or recommending or standardizing. There is nothing, it's just that this is a framework that how everything works out together to achieve this type of attestation. This is an example, maybe if I walk you through to helps you to understand what the goal is here. We present this one last year in OCP, and this is, I think, this is the most well thought through part of the whole this device attestation model. For the firmware attestation, reality is end user do have a SPOM, which SPOM gives the version of the firmwares running on their platform, but that's about it. It doesn't give assurance. There's generally a SPOM is a manual field file. It could be out of the sync what is in reality and what is running on the platform. And we do have this safe OCP audit report, which is showing the audited report of all the firmwares, supposed to be all the firmwares we have from all the silicon vendors, or the coring, which does have the reference value of the reference value sign with the version of the firmwares is supported by silicon vendors. But still, these information doesn't give any assurance to the end user what's going on. But end user has is in the system. And if the silicon vendor provide a way that they could actually have these measurements securely available to the end user, that would be the case that end user, through this flow, which I'm going to go through in the next slide, would be able to know what version of the firmware they are running. And then they can go to this safe OCP audit report and look at the vulnerabilities and figure out is this environment is healthy enough for their workload to bring in or not.
Where would you place storage in this diagram?
The storage would be actually part of this, here. The root of the trust should have access. The storage should have its firmware, and part of the reference of that firmware should be part of the root of the trust, or somewhere to give, to be able to get access of that measurement of the firmware.
So there would be an SBOM also involved in that process above, in those, perhaps in those boxes on the upper left?
Yes, SBOM should have, yes. But SBOM is not, as I just mentioned, it's not giving you any assurance about what's going on, what's the firmware, what's the version of the firmware. Yeah.
No, I mean, Safe has a large list of things that need to be evaluated. SBOM, I believe, is one of them. Okay, thank you.
Any questions on the proposed firmware attestation model? Then if I just walk you guys through one example, this is the
So
one I
just one question. Does it also include configuration and those kind of things?
configuration. The very good question, Sanjeev. This is something that we plan to do it this year as a demo in OCP
Okay.
for the feature enablement. For example, one of the feature, some of the Intel support is TME, total memory encryption. And
Yes.
I know for the fact that some of the top CSPs are supporting as a default feature in their platform. But the gap here, which their end customers came to us, is they don't know whether for sure that TME is enabled. They are claiming TME is enabled and everything is getting encrypted. But how can they know for sure this is there? There is no attestation for the feature. And that's why for this year demo, we are planning actually to have a POC level and feature attestation model, just to help the end user to know what is, for example, what are the features supported in the platform. If TME, for example, is supported, how do they know TME is enabled? For example, what type of encryption is TME supporting? Is it AES 128 or 12056? As of now, for the end user, they have to know what the platform is running and then go to the Intel manual just to figure out if this platform support AES 256 or 128. Is not that anything automatically would come and give them that assurance.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And the other things actually we want to work, this is a concern we heard that, okay, Google has, is about the, and they brought in the OCP, is about the debug mode. Okay, how do they know, how the end user or even CSPs know the platform is running is in the production mode or debug mode? There is, as of now, there is no way to know it. But feature attestation would help the end user to know. Any other question? Okay, if not, then I'm going through the high level flow of what we are talking about, the firmware attestation. This is the exact model we used for our demo last year. Combining, or when Jeff said marrying all SBOM and audit reports, safe OCP audit report with what we have in the system, we can actually understand what's going on in system. From the OS level, end user does have the SBOM, can learn what's the version of the, for example, here we use BMC, what's the version of the firmware they are using for BMC. And then they can actually, for that a specific version of the BMC, they can go to the safe OCP link and figure it out, OCP safe link, and they can get the audit report for the BMC. And based on that, they do have, in audit report, we do have the measurement, which is actually would be the very critical point for our flow because we need a valid reference point. And from, if the version of the SBOM matches with the version of the audit report, which should do because the end user would get planning to get that a specific version, then they do have the hash right. But then to know what's the hash, the measurement is for the BMC in their platform, they need this plumbing, which as of now, not that many of the silicon vendors provide to pass that firmware measurement securely in a OS level exposed to the end user. What we did, we established a SBDM channel between the OS and PROD, and we get the measurement for the BMC, and then we compare that measurement with what we have in audit report. If they do match, wonderful. What it means, okay, we have the right version as is claimed in SBOM in the platform, and we can look at the vulnerabilities and figure out if it's safe to bring the workload. If it's not, then that's definitely there is a mismatch and there is out of sync situation. Then they need to reach out to CSPs to figure it out where is this match is coming from. Any question?
In this diagram here, is the SBOM just a text file? Like, where does the actual hash that you're comparing come from?
Hash is actually, SBOM doesn't have any hash. SBOM is just a JSON file and which is a nested file which has a version of the firmwares and softwares. The hash is coming from audit report. Yeah, I have another slide. Have you seen the short format of the say OCP safe? It does have the hash signed with the auditor's signature. If you want, I can
Okay,
bring
and then
up
you compare that against the hash from the root of trust.
Exactly. That would be my reference value. The hash could come from Quorum too, but the OCP safe would give more information, including the vulnerability, which Quorum doesn't.
Sorry.
Sorry, Brian, want to go first?
No, you can.
So, pretty fundamental question, but probably parading ignorance here. But why is this all OS driven? I mean, is there something in the previous slide that I missed? I mean, could you not drive this from the management side, for instance, or is that intended for an end user?
It's intended for the end user, but sorry, Albert, I didn't understand one point. Maybe I misheard. Then where do you want this information getting exposed?
I don't know. I mean, it's not a requirement or anything. I'm just wondering why, you're assuming that there is an OS present and all that will be driven by the OS. Is that a particular reason?
It's just for the end user purpose. That end user knows that's the goal. That end user would be able to understand what's going on in their environment.
I think you could do it from the BMC as well. It's just anyone who has access to that root of trust should be able to get those measurements.
Which is exactly my point, but yeah, sure. Okay, thank you.
Sure, that's a good point.
Yeah, so just confirm that the verifier can also be the BMC in addition to the OS, right?
Yes, that's true. That's true. This is the toy model we put together. If we want to expand it to make it from different angles, that's a plan for the working stream. But yes, that's for sure it's possible.
Just to avoid confusion, can you update later to say verifier instead of OS so that can cover anything? It could be BMC, it could be something based on OS or something else, right? It can be separate entity, whatever.
Good point. Exactly. Good point. Sure, I can do that one.
Yeah, I think the reality is it's going to be some Python script running elsewhere off the system entirely.
Right. That's why we want to put generic things so implementation can do whatever appropriate for that system or that model.
That's a good point. But anyway, this was the exact OCP POC model we developed. But you're right. I'm gonna revise it and then put the verifier here.
We want to maybe caution on getting too far away from what I think Roxana is asking now. I think the point of this is that I think Roxana is looking for is a standard for, say, a tenant to be able to somehow request this information for the system that tenant is running on. Right, Roxana?
Yes.
So, I mean, yeah, maybe it's going through, it's requesting through the BMC or something like that. I don't know, but and this is not to replace the other attestation that's maybe happening in the system for that's remote, that's for the CSP to be doing and stuff like that. This is just in addition to that, also somehow allowing a tenant that's running on a given system to be able to query the system somehow and get information about features that are running on that system and things like that, or that are enabled on that system.
So,
That's exactly it.
but we don't want to just limit this to tenant, right? I think this can also be used by operator or whoever owns the infrastructure.
That's true too. Agree.
Yes, yeah,
Yes.
but we can't be too focused on the mechanism that the operator is using, because most of the standards so far seem to have been focused in that space, I think. Right?
Well, in that case, my recommendation would be, you know, in the previous slide or at the beginning, to stress that this is, you know, customer focused and user focused, so that, you know,
yeah,
we don't confuse it with all the other initiatives going on.
Sure, that's what I was trying to say, but anyway, maybe it didn't come across well. You're right. I'm gonna revise the wording here to I said in user, but anyway, maybe I should make it more clear. That's what I mean. But you're right. As of now, the end user, but the other point people are making, it can be extendable to other verifier too. If other verifier wants to use it also, the model can be reused for those one too. But the initial purpose is enable the tenant and end user.
You know, Roxana, I think if you achieve this, it will be phenomenal.
Thank you so much.
One of the things I hear a lot from both cloud customers and from enterprise customers is that, you know, they give us this kind of a forward sentence, which makes me cringe when we talk about attestation. And what they tell us is it's all very complicated. That's the sound of a customer walking away. And you know, there is RATS, and people keep on referring to it. And Microsoft has a RATS compliant service called MAA. I know Intel has one of them. Every CSP has a service like that. And it's not what tenants want to trust. They want some other way to verify. And what I don't want to hear is it's all very complicated. So if you have even a subpar, like it's complicated because we actually go and in these services, we deconstruct the measurements, we recreate them from the source object, and then we replay them, and then we do a pretty thorough attestation. So it is, it's a very secure thing to do, but it's very difficult for the layman to reason about that. And when they get it, it's like, well, how do we, what are we trusting here? And then in enterprise, they don't have these services, so they're like completely lost. And it's almost like we've been shipping TPMs and laptops for like near a decade now, and I think less than 1% of users actually use them because they're so complicated to deconstruct the measurements. If you can create something here that, even if it doesn't give the full picture, but gives enough of a verification for somebody to have a plausible confidence, I think it's a massively valuable thing to do.
I totally hear you, Brian. I'm completely with you. The fact that attestation reports are not digestible is a concern that so many customers came to us and told us, especially as you mentioned from the enterprise folks. And if we could do something to make it digestible, it might not be full blown up attestation you guys are doing for T's or something, but something that they can understand and they can do it themselves to extract enough information what they need. That's the goal of this working stream.
So Brian, a question for you, right? When you say, I fully agree, attestation up to this point has been confusing and challenging. But when you say customers want something easily digestible, do you think they want to go build something custom, or are they going to expect that what they get is some standards-based thing that interops with what all the open source verifiers that they're trying to pull in and use? Because at the end of the day, there has to be something actually looking at all this and passing judgment, yay or nay. I'm skeptical that they want yet another new thing as opposed to like a standards-based, like here's your EAR report that you can then go consume because it's the standard.
I think
well, the problem is there are so many standards that even that alone is confusing and nobody understands it. We understand it because it's our day job to go and do it. Think about somebody that's working in a financial institution or somebody that they don't stay on top of like emerging standards. There's just so many different ways to get measurements, and there's nothing that's actually taking it from a usability perspective from somebody that's going to consume measurements. And I tell you right now, one of the biggest barriers to even confidential compute is all of the protocols for confidential compute are based on attestation. And if we've learned nothing from enterprise, it is they don't know how to do attestation and they don't understand it. And telling them to go away and re-educate themselves on a specification that's emerging is not meeting the customer where they're at.
Yeah, I think the thing that's missing in a lot of these discussions are real world use case scenarios where you would actually consume and rely on the attestation information as part of that workflow. And the example that I've used pretty frequently is build systems. And so if you really want to harden your build platform to the point where you're up there in the salsa spec capabilities, then you need to pull the underlying attestation metadata out of the systems that the build plan is running on and package it with the artifact, and then enforce policy for those artifacts being gated into the production runtime environment that consumes that attestation material. And it's actually a pretty easy way for people to reason about how they'll actually use it. Because I think the issue with attestation material is without these hard use cases that actually leverage the attestation material, people kind of just don't know what to do with it. So identifying these a portfolio of use cases where you're going to lean on this information, that's the missing piece to get the ultimate end users understanding why and how they'll actually use the information.
I mean, what I'm hearing is end users want something simple like an EAR token. Right? Like this is one of the problems RATS is trying to solve. So I'm still not seeing that there's like a huge divergence here between what other standards are trying to accomplish and what we're talking about here.
I'll give you the sentence that they give them when we talk about EAR tokens is it's all very complicated.
I mean, sure, but any report is going to be complicated then, right? Like an EAR token is about as simple as you can make a report.
Well, what Roxana is trying to do here is meet them where they're at, where they don't need a token. They don't need to go and trust a third-party attestation service. They don't need to go build their own attestation service.
Something still needs to understand. But Brian, you're still like, if we go back to this, where was the more exploded picture, right? You're still one more up, I think, right? You still have attesters producing evidence. You still have vendors producing references. You still have a verifier consuming a policy, right? It's all the same.
A verifier here is the user, right? It's like trust, it's like trust and verify. In this case, it's like trust, somebody else will verify, and they don't want somebody else in the picture.
I don't know that it makes it easier for the user to expect them to understand the complexities of the verification step and consuming all those inputs.
Well, I mean,
that's if you try to make it. I agree with that statement, Matt. If you try to make it perfect, which if you make it plausible, I think there's a scenario where that's valuable. Simplify it for the end user so they can verify the verifier. It doesn't mean RATS goes away or is not important or is duplicate to this effort. I think what this means is that the user can do verification on their own if they therefore choose to.
Yeah, it puts it more of it in their control. So like SBOMs, those are published. You can find those wherever. These safe reports are published, and that's the one that ties it down into the hash. And a trusted third party has looked at this to find some level of vulnerabilities in there. And I don't have to have at runtime yet another service that I'm talking to. I think that's where it shifts the complexity around.
Yeah, so the way I see it, I mean, from my vantage point, I think when you talk about RATs, it's about remote. But when we talk about the one that Roxana is presenting, I think it's like local attestation. There is a need for control for whosoever is security admin or the system admin or maybe tenant to have some level of guaranteed response to the local attestation. So maybe this is, I mean, is that the right way to look at it? That's like RATS and RIM is for remote and this is for local. Does it make sense?
It does
Well,
make sense.
I think you look, the attestation material is going to be consumed by a bunch of different parties in different scenarios. And so if you're an operator, then yeah, you're going to basically be doing things out of band and consuming this. But then if you're a CSP, you're going to want to be able to present the attestation material up to the end user for their consumption and whatever policy enforcement they want to do. So you have multiple avenues for consumption of this material, and they're not mutually exclusive, obviously. So it's a fairly straightforward thing to say, all right, if I'm going to be able to generate it locally and I'm going to do this stuff on an ad hoc basis, if I'm running the platform and I have a process that goes and interrogates my infrastructure on some periodic basis to go pull this information and verify it, you may or may not present that out to the user, or the user may just say, hey, I want to go pull attestation material for like the build plant that I was talking about that I'm running on your cloud platform or that I'm running in the enterprise. And then I want to make policy decisions on that. But the attestation payloads are the same at the end of the day.
It could be simplified. It could be different payload. I mean, it could be more digestible for end user. But it could be the same too.
So if I understand the discussion correctly, there is a difference between making things available to the user so that the user can do their own verification, right? And making things simpler. Although I assume that if you want the user to do their own verification, you have to make things simpler, right? But I find it very hard to figure out how to do a proper verification of attestation information and everything else that is here without the complexity, right? That's simply because there's a lot of pieces that you have to verify. You have to have keys to verify the audit report, keys to verify the SBOM, keys to verify each one of those different attestation results from the different components at the top and so on and so forth. So I see this as there's two ways of doing this. One is you go to a service and you get a token, and that means you trust that service, that they're doing the right thing. And if you get the token, then you can do whatever it is you want to do with that platform because you got that token, right? That's the simplest case, right? Now, there is the case that Brian is saying, which is, well, maybe these users do not want to trust a third party to do this for them. They want to do it locally, right? And that's where it would be interesting to see what is it that we can do to make this really, really easy, right? And so that they don't have this is not too complex comment about the technology, and at the same time do a proper verification of the attestation information, right? That's the part that seems really hard.
Right. So sorry. One analogy that it just came to my mind is, see, when we do like hiring, like for any kind of hiring, there is this, we do background check, which I will call it as a remote attestation, but we also do reference checks, right, within our own network or some employee within the organization who can refer or this individual that we're hiring. So that is at the local level. Now, the option is up to the organization to go do both or go with the local reference. In many cases, local references are the way to, make an offer, right? So is that, does it make sense? I mean, is an analogy like that helps in defining the differences between remote and the local?
I mean, I think the issue here is that even this flow is a remote attestation, right? None of this is necessarily tied to being local. And from an attestation framework model, this is a remote flow.
I think we are just so fixated in this local and remote. This is just that, okay, end user would be able to do what the attestation, I mean, to run the attestation flow by themselves instead of trusting another third party to do the attestation. And we have to make it as simple as, I mean, Alberto said that, okay, how they can do all the key, I mean, for T, all the key testing and measurement and signature. The flow should be done. I mean, the software and reference code we are providing should have done all the things there. It's like Intel DCAP library. Everything should be there that, okay, this user would be able to go and run. And just to give assurance that that library is good enough, we can actually do the audit report for that library to make sure that library doesn't have any backend, there is no issue, and that's already been signed and signed as a part of the OCP safe and been audited and reviewed.
I mean, I guess my counterpoint to that is, what's the difference between that and doing the same audit of the open source verifier service and then running that locally? Right, the verifier service isn't like just a random thing in the cloud you have to trust. It's just an application you can run anywhere.
Yeah, and there's more than one or two open source projects that you can pick up and just grab them and go. There's Keylime, there's Brazen. I mean, the ecosystem is starting to catch up to this process, and it's going to get better and better. So I don't think that if you were an enterprise shop, it wouldn't be a heavy lift for you to figure out how to go deploy an internal verifier, globally for your infrastructure footprint.
Yeah, one thing I was just noticing here, that we just get the example of where we are actually doing the attestation of the firmware. That is easier because we know this is the digest value and it is tied to a certain silicon identity, and we can have a reference value. We can compare and we can know that this platform is running at this version of firmware, and this is the digest value, and we compare it against the reference value. Then that's how verifier can be ensured that this is the right version of firmware is running on the platform. But regarding the features, that is what where I'm a little bit confused, because a platform may give that this is a feature that I'm claiming. How do you know that features are actually being there in that specific platform? How do you attest that? Basically, that is not very clear. We just take the whatever is being provided at the face value, right?
Okay, sorry, Sanjeev, you are saying that how the feature attestation model would work?
Yeah,
Sure.
that is what the firmware is very clear to me. That is,
Sure,
there's no
but the
doubt. Yeah.
feature actually, sure, that's a good point. Feature actually, any feature we enable, there's a MSR register or some configuration register internally in every for silicon vendors, which shows that feature is enabled. But those registers are not exposed to the end user. What we are going to provide, silicon vendors would provide extracting those information from those MSRs and the configuration feature and pass it through a report to end user, like a text end user that they could see what are the features enabled.
So Roxana, I'm trying to think, would that be just like the raw bits, like here's the set of bits in the registers, or because right now we often do like hashes of these, and that's why you need this attestation service to redo the computation.
Yeah, so that is what I was trying to understand. Is it possible that when we do the dice flow, somehow we incorporate those features also that that this platform you're testing, this is the feature that I enabled and is basically rooted to the silicon root of trust. And but then the problem is that the other end should also have that if this feature is enabled, this should be the measurement, and if this feature is enabled, then the measurement is going different. So that is one way to do it. That okay, this definitely know that it is cryptographically bound to a specific silicon implementation, right?
I mean,
That-
not to beat a dead horse, but what you're describing is custom claims in an ETH token.
Yeah.
Right, and I think the way to provide that information, right, is as part of the, for example, the SPDM responder functionality for that particular device, right? That you have to make the decision when you're building the device as to which of these features are important. Like, for example, if the device is under debug, is definitely a very critical one. And what happens is the device itself, as a response to an SPDM request, for example, will return these features and sign, right, the fact that these features happen to be turned on or turned off.
Yeah.
Now, the problem here is that this is very device specific, right? So if you take an FPGA, it'll look in a certain way. If you take a processor, it probably looks in a different way, right? And this is where the complexity of this stuff starts creeping in.
Sure, what you are saying, Albert, yeah, that the endpoint would be definitely different for each of these input of the features, but then we could put a framework that all these endpoint would support to report the feature also as a part of their SPDM. As of now, there is no way end user would know. They have to trust CSPs. But we want to put this framework, and sure, it's going to be different for every pieces. That's certainly is there. But we need to have a framework in place that end user would be able to know what is going on.
Yeah, like for example you gave with the TME, the encryption, total memory encryption, right? Whether it's enabled or not, platform can say that yes, total memory encryption has been enabled, right? But what did the user? How do the user assure that it is actually enabled unless it is somehow reflected in the measurement or a certificate that you provide, which actually somehow capture that in the cryptographic measurement, right?
Good point. We can do that one, or we can put some unit tests. For encryption, it's easy. We can put some unit tests to know what's going on, even the strengths of the encryption. The silicon vendors can put some unit tests for giving customers confident whether their information is encrypted or not. But as you said, anyway, I haven't thought through about that flow yet, but I appreciate it if all of us together. This is our plan to do the demo this year, which I'm going to start working on it maybe from next month. But yes, that what you are giving me the feedback is completely right. I mean, the things you are saying definitely needs to be part of the more secure way of giving assurance for the end user.
So here just had to add, Roxana, isn't that already expected? Say the measurements we have, that will already include, example, the CDI L0 as part of the dice flow, that already uses the configurations, is supposed to have the configurations even as per the dice spec and hash of that, and that will make it way to the reference integrity manifest. So that so are you not already encompassing all of that? Does this not preclude that all that already exists and we build upon that infrastructure?
So if I understand things correctly, Sakul, yes, all of that stuff exists right today. What doesn't exist is a standard that says all of the devices must report things in this particular way, right? What SPDM says is, well, you write a measurement manifest that tells the world how your device provides information, attestation information, right? And then it is up to the verifier to understand and interpret this kind of stuff. I think what Roxana is going is saying, well, maybe we can standardize that measurement manifest so that all devices report this stuff in the same way. right?
Easy.
It would be great if you can do that. I think it's hard, right? It's going to be hard. Because now you're not just talking about processors, you're talking about every single device that reports information.
And
Right.
there's so many features, right? And the way I was thinking that, okay, in the DICE certificate itself, if we can, in the certificate format itself, if we can also provide the features that are being actually there, are signed in that certificate, basically, of the platform, right? Those kind of things.
That DICE has a feature flag field for things like debug is enabled.
Yeah.
If there's a few other things, if there are things that you believe are generic that are not captured, send an email to the TCG DICE workgroup mailing list. We talked about that a lot in the most recent update, and we captured the ones we believed were important. But if there's something more that you think needs added, we will certainly consider it.
Yeah, no, basically what I was thinking is that every platform has number of features. Can we add more those features? Debug feature, all those are generic thing, right? But if there are very specific features, like a certain thing that is very specific to a specific implementation, that kind of things, whether that can be, there can be some feed where all those things can be captured. But I think it will be difficult because it is not very easy. So yeah, it has to be some separate token or something.
You could capture that kind of information in the firmware ID list.
Okay.
But then you have to, like, the problem is if you do that, you have to unroll it. It's not like a specific custom bit.
Yeah, I think the other thing that is important here, and
John.
probably
Yeah,
there has
so I'm actually right now trading mail back and forth with Christian. Instead of having him, because we're so far along in the shed, we're almost done. I'm just waiting for.
Can someone mute him? Ari, go mute, please.
Oh, now, so yeah, the progress is good, except yeah, I mean they're
All right.
problems.
Yeah, things are going well for him, and he's making good progress.
First of all, right.
Yeah.
So
Let me see what we can do.
Wow.
All right.
And then you want siding on it, but they're going to try and get it into payment or everything and start siding.
I think I can.
It's a fabric. I don't know the invoice anyways. So I got it. It's no, we have this aluminum siding with really high density insulation inside of it. And so it's really good product. It's an amazing product. And I've noticed that one of the big developers around here does custom built houses. They somehow discovered the same product.
Okay.
I'm surprised that it's probably a bit more.
Mute him. Are you able to kick him, Brian? Or mute him?
I can't. I gotta claim this like host thing or something. I can't find the pin.
If you're a host, you can mute them.
Yeah. Only hence we say use Microsoft Teams. So.
We need to have more hosts in these calls.
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he finished his conversation or took it outside.
Embarrassing.
Well, I have six.
So he's back.
Yeah. 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 Oh yeah.
Should we try again?
Yeah, can't say our
Ari, don't use aluminum siding, use hardy plank.
So I'll try to say what I was saying pretty quickly, hopefully. So what I think is important here is maybe defining the concept of a platform, right? When you want to have verification of an entire platform, you have to have verification of a bunch of individual devices that belong to that platform and a bunch of interactions and stuff like that, right? And that creates a lot of complexity on trying to say, yes, this platform is good or it's not good. So maybe if there's a way of facilitating this, right? Saying this is what a platform looks like. These are the things that are critical for doing an attestation of that platform. Maybe that can help in this situation, right? Most of the work that has happened up to this point with SPDM and verification and all of those things has been about individual devices.
Sure, but Albert, you are saying that, okay, can you just repeat one more time? I mean, you are saying you have different pieces of the platform. Let's just, one more time, I didn't get that.
Yeah, what I'm saying is, when you need to make a determination as to whether or not a platform you're going to be used is good for you to use, you need to understand a bunch of different pieces, right? You need to understand the situation with respect to the processor, storage devices, FPGAs, anything else that can be part of that platform, right? Mm-hmm. And most of the work that we've done in terms of verification and tends to refer to individual devices, right? One of the things that I think we haven't done up to this point, at least not clearly, is to say, what does it mean to attest a platform? Right, which is sort of an aggregation of all of the devices that make up that platform, plus some other platform level thingies, right, that you have to worry about.
That's true. What you're saying, I hear you. We can actually, I mean, to put a framework for every individual and then sum it up for the whole platform and give the feedback for the end user that, okay, what it means is the whole platform is healthy, if I phrase what you're saying.
Right.
Makes sense. I think we lost Brian. I want to know whether we should, I mean, whether he's fine to open the working group or not.
Yeah, I'm good to open that working group, and I can follow up with you today on getting that going.
Thank you so much, Brian. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so one thing that would be very important to do with this new group is to clearly identify what is it that the group is doing that goes beyond what we have today.
Good point, Albert. Sure, I can work on that one, and I can get everybody's feedback on that one.
Yeah, so people understand and agree. Okay, yes, what they're doing, what this group is doing, is brand new and is something that we need.
Yeah, I mean, I think everything should have a charter, right? That's what we're talking about.
I think, yes.
Yep.
Awesome. Okay, we're just about up on time. So thanks a lot, Roxana, for the presentation today and the discussion around this. As I said, I'll follow up with you on setting up the support group so you can make further progress on this.
Totally appreciate it. Thank you so much, everybody. Thanks a lot, Brian.
Okay. Thanks a lot. Have a great day.
You too.
Thank you. Bye.
goodness, Matt.